Okay, and we're live for another episode of Ladies Night. Moff, you want to kick it off, bud?
Yes, ladies, welcome. Thank you. We're going to do a quick round of intros. We'll just go around. We're going to ask your name, age, where you're from, what you do, current relationship status, and then what made you want to come on the podcast tonight. Let's just go ahead and start with Reyin. Good to see you again.
Hi, I'm Reyin Jasmine. I'm 23. What I do, I am actually the marketing director of a day club called Top of the Rocks. And what was the other question I have to answer?
Relationship status?
I'm talking to someone right now, but that's just about it.
Okay. And then what made you want to come on the show?
What made me want to come to the show was I don't want to curse on here. I really liked your personalities from Soscast, and I wanted to get to know you guys more. You guys are cool.
All right.
Very cool. Yeah, cursing to a minimum, at least for the first 15 minutes, and then
Yeah.
let it fly, essentially. Yeah,
Bomb
after that,
away after that.
yeah, let it fly. YouTube is much more friendly to us. Let's go to Cyndi next.
Hi, I'm Cyndi. I'm super old, but you can't tell because I'm Asian. I'm 43. I live in Duluth, Minnesota. I am married to the best husband ever. I have two children from my previous marriage. I work in nonprofit fundraising as the director of development for a very well known nonprofit. I also do a lot of volunteering in the community. I just abdicated my 6 year presidency of the parent teacher organization, and I'm also the upcoming president of another nonprofit volunteer position. I also am the author of the Suck Less series, 3 books of a trilogy that I wanted to write and release within a year. And I actually watched your show when I was on the treadmill one morning, and that's when I reached out.
Okay, cool. What made
Okay.
you want to reach out, by the way?
So my husband's very alpha. So, and being married to him and being with him for a long time, he's really enlightened me to a lot of things that I kind of resisted for a long time, and so I kind of gravitate to watch some of these things when I'm on the treadmill for so long, just to kind of see, and then we have conversations about it.
Okay.
I don't necessarily disagree with everything, but I do feel like society pushes women to be very strong and independent, but they also tell us we can have that fairy tale love story, and those things don't always live well in the same space together.
Good.
Okay. Cody, on to you.
Okay. Hey, y'all. My name is Cody. I'm 41. I teach Pilates, I coach mountain biking, and I work in mental health. And I've done some real estate investing. And why I wanted to come on the show was I've listened to a couple of Rich's shows over the years, and some of the things I thought were really interesting that he was saying. And at first, no offense, I really hated you. And then I was like, the more I listened, I was like, oh, I mean, okay, I could see some points here. And so I just wanted to come on. I love a good discussion, and I wanted to come on and find out what I can do better to be better as a partner and whatnot. Oh, and I am in a relationship. That's fine.
I'm getting bad audio. Are you getting that too, Moff?
Yeah, a little bit from Cody, but that might be a headphone thing.
I don't have headphones.
You don't have headphones. Oh, maybe that's okay. Yeah, I'm just getting. I don't have it when she doesn't speak.
Yeah, it's turning to snow for some reason.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Maybe
we'll
try the headphones and see if that will work.
Throw some headphones in for us, see if that fixes it.
But she did say she was in a relationship. Got that. Yeah, I'm hearing the comments come in. Okay.
Yeah, we're getting nasty audio and a bit of feedback off you.
No, we're still getting it. Try
Did you switch over to those headphones for us?
That's so weird. So I did switch to headphones. Can y'all hear me?
Yeah, I'm getting the same sort of feedback in the audio.
That's so weird. Is there anything what can I do?
Are you sure they're connected? Like they're definitely connected to your phone?
Yeah.
You can look at the gear wheel and the settings right there on StreamYard. Yeah, because
I'm getting crap audio from you, Moff. I'm just going to switch.
Oh, I am? Okay. Apologies to the audience for the technical difficulties. Audience, you guys hear me okay? Guys, put in the chat if you're having issues with my audio as well.
All right. I don't know. Hopefully that solves it.
Check 1, 2. You're good.
No, I can't hear anybody now.
I can hear you.
What the hell's going on here?
Oh my goodness. Okay. Everybody's saying they can hear me fine. We can hear you fine, Rich.
All right. We're okay now.
You good?
Let's try it again. All right. So
see if Cody can. I'll mute Cody in the meantime while we try to figure that
we'll
out.
let it. Okay. So I want to hear about the Suck Less book series. What's that about, Cyndi?
Well, first of all, I just want to say that Moff knows this is not my time of the day. So I'm going to try really hard to stay awake and be very articulate. So I'm one of those type A people who, when they get an idea, they want to do it like yesterday.
Mhm.
So it started about August and I needed a project. And so I had the idea on the treadmill that this is what I wanted to do. And I run upstairs and my husband's asleep and I'm like, husband, I've come to a decision. And he's like, what? I'm asleep. And I'm like, I'm going to write a book. He's like, okay. And I'm like, you don't believe it? He's like, I believe it. I'm just sleeping. So I wrote that first book, Suck Less at Love is the first book. I wrote that in a month. And then the second book just came out. That's Suck Less at Parenting. And the third book should be out either the end of this month or next month, and that's Suck Less at Life. And Suck Less is kind of my life's motto because I feel like everybody could suck less.
Okay. Was the book on love for the gals or was it for guys?
It's more geared toward women, but what makes my books different, I mean, they're self-helpy, but I'm not like a PhD or whatever, is that I do interview on the latter half of every chapter. So in that book, my husband gets interviewed about every topic in the first book. And then in the second book, my children get interviewed. And in the third book, he also got interviewed again. He didn't want to be on the cover of the third book, which is fine. But he provides that that completely opposing perspective.
Okay. And what was the premise for women to suck less at love?
There's a lot to it. I give a lot of unsolicited advice. And I feel like because I'm older, a lot of my friends who are either married or very, very single, I give the same advice. And some of it, I think, is some of the things that you say to why the reasons women are single at this point in their lives. I just don't think people want to hear it is the problem. Or they won't come to that decision until something kind of hits them in their personal life. They could read about it, but they might not. I don't know. It's a really hard thing to convince women to change back to maybe reverting to more traditional things or being more feminine, when I feel like there's a lot of push in the world to go the other way.
So you're convincing them to re-immerse into their feminine side?
I mean, that's part of it. Part of it's not to be so combative and to see things from both sides of it. But
is that hard for you as a type A personality?
It's very difficult. Yes.
Yeah.
It's super hard. I mean, it's hard for me to let him lead. When we were having our wedding pictures taken and they wanted to do like the dip pose and I couldn't do it, like, because I couldn't let go. And she's like, he's not going to drop you. Just let him do it. So yeah, it is actually very difficult.
Okay. Cody, you said something off the get-go that you came across my stuff a while ago and you didn't like me at first, but now you kind of agree with stuff that I'm talking about. What was it that you didn't like?
I thought you were very negative towards women.
Okay.
Anything
specifically that we can talk about first?
Yeah, actually, education. So, and I would like some clarification on your side of it too. Obviously. So what I hear when I'm listening to your podcasts and your shows is that education isn't important for women. Is that correct?
It really depends on your strategy. I mean, I've said this before. I don't know if you've caught it, but I think a woman's better off collecting degrees and going to post-secondary and getting into high-ticket sales in their very early 20s, selling expensive cars, yachts, jets, real estate, getting exposed to successful guys that have their life together, and then just marrying one of them and having family and you're set for life. So
Right.
I wouldn't recommend to my daughter to go and chase a whole bunch of degrees and put them on the wall and frame them in mahogany. Instead, it's probably better off to get married at a younger age rather than putting that off later on.
Do you know what the statistics are for a woman being able to find a husband in that category who can be like,
Well, I mean, the kind of guys that most gals want are all on the top shelf, right? It's like all the girls are looking for the top 5% of guys. Tall, competent, resourceful, makes good money, has a good social network, good looking, not fat, in good shape, blah, blah, blah sort of thing. So there's not a ton of them, but you're going to be in a better position to lock that guy down in your 20s than you are in your 40s or 50s.
Right. But what about women who obviously, there's not the pool of men who are high value is very small. And so what about those women who won't be able to get a man like that? Not every woman who goes and sells expensive yachts and expensive cars will come out marrying a man who makes a lot of money.
Mm-hmm.
And so why not promote?
Want to have a backup plan?
Yeah.
I don't know. Why did the conquistadors burn the ships at the shore when they reached the new land? So, sort of thing, to make sure that they were committed to it.
Right.
Yeah, the backup plan's been sold to women though. Like, how's that working out? I guess is the question that I have, because we have a large swath of women in their 30s and 40s that are asking me, where do I find a guy? I've done all the work. I've got the house. I've got the Tesla. I have my degrees. I make good money. I'm independent. I'm timely. I'm punctual. I'm a good worker sort of thing. It's like you've basically described what makes a man attractive to a woman, and they miss the point that they're kind of not selling themselves the right way to the guys that they want to be with.
What about women who are educated and encompass those qualities, that more feminine qualities that high value men look for?
Well, what usually ends up happening from the experience that we have is, and I have a video that I want to share too as well too. I know Moff, you got something queued up because it's sort of really interesting talking point that I wanted to present to the gals tonight. But it's been told to women today that it's wise to not rely on a man. And I think that might be good advice in a pool of like a terrible dating pool for women. But then where does that leave you? It leaves you in a condition where you're by yourself or you price yourself out of the dating market, because women don't date guys that are below them. They don't generally want to look at a guy. They want to look up at a guy. They want to be with a guy that's better than them. That's the whole notion of hypergamy, right? So, if you've done well in your life and you've got everything that makes men attractive to women, you basically become a dude, and then your pool of guys that you have access to are going to be there, but they know that women don't share their pot of gold with men, right? So it's like, do they want somebody that's disagreeable and sort of like a boss girl, or do they want somebody that's a compliment to their life, who's going to make their house a home, raise their children, be respectful, be useful in their life and stuff like that? And they usually choose the latter, the smart ones anyway. But there's also a lot of guys that were sold the same narrative. And I was too, when I was younger too. It's like, you want to be the Twin Towers, right? Like you want to marry your equal, you want to find a professional that's together and has their degrees as well. And, all that sort of stuff, and build a life together. And they end up fighting quite a lot in doing this. So it's tough. Like half of marriages are failing. Second time around, it's even higher. We live in a difficult sort of environment right now, don't we?
For sure.
So you didn't like the notion about education? What did I say exactly that bugged you?
Well, I don't know. It wasn't like a specific thing. It was the tone, maybe, and like I said, I could have been misinterpreting what you said. But what I heard every time that I would listen to your podcast and education and women came up, it was, women don't focus on a degree, go sell yachts or expensive cars, find that high value man. Men aren't looking, a piece of paper and a mahogany frame isn't going to impress a man. Cooking and being nurturing and, more feminine qualities. And I guess like my disagreement with that notion of thought is just like, well, not every woman will be able to find a high value man, and so then what? And also,
just really quick, this is what I want to make sure like really gets hammered home, because Rich touched on it, but what women risk by getting degrees and getting master's degrees and making a bunch of money is, we talked about what you just mentioned, pricing themselves out of the market. You know, if you're a woman who's a hairdresser or you're working at McDonald's and you're making $30,000 a year, a guy that comes and makes $80,000 a year, okay, that guy makes more than double your income. That guy might be a top shelf guy in that woman's eyes. She still looks up to that guy. He still makes more. He's still going to be a provider, being taken care of her, versus if she goes to a 4-year or 6-year school or whatever, and she comes out making 85K, 90K, every guy that makes 80K doesn't even stand a chance. So the pool of men that she will actually find or see as higher value than her, because that's really what it boils down to, higher value. Like, women want to look up, right? Not every woman, is going to go get a millionaire, a billionaire, or whatever, but the pool of men that she will find attractive that will be suitable for her as a mate or as a husband or boyfriend is going to be vastly larger than if she spends her entire 20s chasing degrees and chasing high-paying careers and making a bunch of money. That's what it boils down to. Yes, is there a guarantee that it might not work out for her? Sure. I mean, there's no certainty in anything, but her odds are astronomically and exponentially higher, and there's a far better chance that she will find somebody if she doesn't rush into high level, degrees and all this kind of stuff. And she puts herself in an environment like high ticket sales, where she will constantly be running into high value and well-off men. So it's take the best option that you have, right? And go with that. You know, if you're always planning for the backup, then how can you have a primary strategy?
That's very true. I definitely see your point, and that makes a lot of sense. My other kind of, to piggyback on that, a thought that just came in my mind. What about, so I'm not saying always, but having more education does, increase your ability to learn information, to understand information, and could make you a better conversationalist. Is that something that's important to men, to be able to have
No, because
we don't want to sit across the table from a bimbo, if we're being honest, but at the same time, we're not going to get into
the conversations
stuff that Rich and
I talk about, things that we're interested in, we're generally not having those conversations with women. Like, they're generally not interested in that kind of stuff. We've got conversations for the guys and we've got conversations for the women, right? So, I mean, it's just that we generally don't have a lot in common, men and women, other than we are drawn to each other, biologically and evolutionarily. So no, it doesn't necessarily, it's not completely out the window. It's not completely out to lunch, but it's certainly not on, a top priority list.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you know how long it took me to stop saying to my husband, "But why don't you value me for how smart I am or all the things that I've accomplished or whatever?" And he's like, "It just doesn't matter to me." And it took a really long time to understand that, men are looking for respect, and they want youth and beauty, and unfortunately that means in your 20s. They don't, the things that women value in themselves are not the things that men value in women, and that's where the disconnect is.
Yeah, and it always takes women a while to figure that out, right? Because if you're drunk on the cultural Kool-Aid of, get a degree, be independent, be responsible, buy your first house, get your car and all that sort of stuff, it's tough to get away from that. And
well, it's funny because so I was like, because he has got my picture in his locker at work, and I had accomplished something. I don't even remember what it was, and he's like, "What, you want me to take your pictures down and put your resume up in there?" It's
right,
not
exactly.
How it works.
Yeah, because women are beauty objects. So he's got a photograph of you there, probably looking good with makeup on, hair done, all proper. So when his mates in the locker room see it, they're gonna be like, "Oh yeah, it's it's Cyndi, that's Bob's wife," sort of thing, right? They're not looking for a copy of your degree in his locker, because women are beauty objects to men and men are success objects to women. So there's vast differences that, we're often talking about here in a landscape that I think if we can get this clarity out to men and women sooner, I think everybody's better off, right? Like Reyin learning this in her 20s is better off than learning this in your 40s. It's usually we always have at some point, like a gal, and it's like, oh man, I was lied to, I've you know, I've got all these degrees and I've got this great income and the Tesla's paid off and my house is awesome and all I have is cats and no guy wants me, right? Like all I'm doing is serial dating now in my 40s and I'm overweight and I can't lose the weight and I don't know what to do and blah, 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 sort of thing. It's like, I mean, I'm sorry you were lied to and we didn't talk 20 years before, but it, you know, like it is what it is. It's just not what guys want in women. There are guys out there that still look for the, you know, the soulmate, you know, the equal, let's go and buy a house together and get that down payment out there like ASAP before the market climbs and the interest rates getting higher and blibbity blah sort of thing. But it's like, I mean, you can avoid all of that if you structure your life a little bit better in your 20s and preserve your value and find the right guy and lock him down.
Rich, can I ask you a question?
Yeah, fire away.
Okay, so you talk about equality between men and women,
Mhm.
and that to me says there's a hierarchy, one above the other.
Right.
What do you mean by equality when you say?
Well, so I talk about these 4 quadrants that I operate in, and obviously the title of my book is The Unplugged Alpha. There's plugged in alphas, there's unplugged betas, there's unplugged betas. But the guys that I work with, I move them in the unplugged alpha category sort of thing, right? So, you know, to the point of equality, it's like men and women aren't equal. We've never been equal. There's stuff that women can do that men can't do. There's absolutely no way that I can have a baby. But like, you know, men get to put a seed in you, and 9 months later we get a human being back with half of our DNA. Like men can never do that. They pretend that they can do that today. You know, they make up all these stories about birthing people instead of calling them mothers anymore. They try to, you know, modify language and stuff like that. But I think in a relationship, if you're going to have a good relationship, women don't want to lead. Women don't want an equal. They want to be led, right? Like you know, if you meet a guy and you're going to get set up on a date, you don't want to like tell him, well, I want to meet at this time and I want to have this to eat. And, you know, when we're done, then we're going to do, like, you want him to set the date because he's the guy, right? So guys have an obligation to do certain things in a relationship. And I think that if you're going to have the responsibility to lead the relationship, you should have some authority over the relationship as well too, right?
Okay, so you're saying that men have the ultimate authority in the relationship.
They should, yes.
Okay.
If they want to have a good experience, and if the woman wants to have a good experience following his lead as the feminine, then yes, she should lean on the masculine and say, I trust you.
Okay. What does that include, like, with the husband or male partner collaborate with his wife on decisions, like come to her and be like, hey, I'm thinking of this, like, what are your thoughts? But then he ultimately makes a decision, or is it just like, hey, no, I'm doing this, I don't need your input?
It depends what it is. I mean, yeah, like, yeah, can you give me an example?
Buying a house.
Okay, well, who's paying for the house?
Well, I mean, okay. I guess it depends on how you think of money in a relationship. I mean, if you think of money, you know, if the man earns the majority of the money, then, you know, and they are married, then
I mean, if you're in an equal partnership, then you're probably going to sit down and be like, okay, let's buy a house in this neighborhood, and it's got to have a certain number of bedrooms, and you're going to agree on certain things. You'll probably sit down and make your compromises, you know, sort of thing. But if it was me and I was buying a house and it's in my relationship, I'm the leader, I'm going to have the final say on the house that's going to be bought. It's the same thing with cars too.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, I like that. I like it when a guy, I mean, just be honest, you know, I mean,
yeah.
And I like it when a guy leads and kind of takes control. I like having input, but I also like it when I'm like, okay, I can trust this guy.
Here's what guys often find when it comes to the whole, like, making decisions together. And I've heard this complaint many times from guys that all women are attracted to. Like, again, you know, the dudes on the top shelf. It's like, yeah, they want to have equal decision making on an important point, like, let's say buying a house, but they don't want to put in equal amount, right? So they want to make 50% of the decision, but they don't want to put in 50% of the money, you know, sort of thing. So it's like, how does that work out? So you can understand the grievance that a lot of guys have with that. So if they're leading and they're taking care of most of it, and you're doing like I talk about blue jobs and pink jobs, where guys should take care of the masculine roles and women should take care of the feminine type of roles. Then there's certain things that you just have to trust and rely on him on. But I think that, you know, we've done this huge disservice to guys where, you know, they've been told to, like, I was sitting at a restaurant having breakfast, you know, with my kid the other day, And this family, you know, came in, and mom came in with a scowl on her face, all, you know, marching into the room, sort of bossy and stuff, strutting around, big and strong. And the guy's kind of a goofy, weaker, sort of beta looking dude. And, you know, he goes in, and then he sort of, you know, spins around. He goes back to the table and he goes, where do you want me to sit? Like, he couldn't even make a fucking decision on where to sit at the table. She had to tell him where to sit. Right. Like, this is where we're at with guys today, where they're asking their wife permission on where to sit at the table. You sit at the head of the fucking table. You're the guy. Right. But these are the things that have now become complicated for men because they've been told to defer to women on just about everything.
Yeah, but you know what? My husband actually asked me where I want to sit so he can pull the chair out for me.
Sure. That's more of like a chivalrous sort of thing. And that's okay. But if it was me, I would go in, I would take off my jacket, I'd pull out your chair, have a seat, and I'm sitting over here. I'm not going to ask you if you want to sit on this side or that side, because when I go into a restaurant, I'm always sitting with my back to the wall and I'm facing the door so I can see who's coming in and out, because it's my job to protect who I love and care for. I'm not going to ask you to get up and fight some crazy motherfucker that comes in with a gun or a knife. I have to take care of it. So I don't need your permission on where to sit. These are the things that I think about that are different from what most other guys, you know, think about, because they're still at the equality phase. Like, oh, you know, do you want to sit over here? Do you want to sit over here? Like, how's the lighting for you? No, forget about all that stuff. I'm going to sit where I need to sit, and I'm going to be a gentleman, and you're going to sit where you need to sit, and I'm going to take care of the bill, and we're going to have a nice dinner and a great night, you know, sort of thing.
Well, I definitely like that. It's very attractive when a man wants to protect his woman, for sure.
Absolutely. But most guys don't think about this.
You know that
They don't.
my husband thinks about that, but he doesn't do the facing the door thing. I think that's
Yeah.
his military background, though. He doesn't. He always told me he's watching everybody regardless.
Mm-hmm.
But in his profession, I know that a lot of people will do that.
Yeah.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Do you think that my generation compared to older generations is more feminine than the others, or do you think mine is more, I guess, how you want it to be?
I don't know. It really depends on how you're raised, I think, you know, because if you're in an environment where you've been sold the egalitarian sort of story that most people subscribe to, I'd say about 80% of the population is all like, you know, let's try to be equal and ask permission to do certain things. Like, I've heard stories about guys would be like, is it okay if I kiss you? You know, stuff like this, like asking for permission for things like this. I mean, dude, if she's with you and, you know, she's all dressed up and has her makeup on and she's smiling, she's looking for a kiss at the end of the night, you know, sort of thing.
She wants you to win.
Yeah. Like, but you have to explain these things to a lot of guys today. So again, it really depends on your upbringing. There's a lot of women that are your age range that are more feminine, that are looking for a masculine guy, that want to be led, that are okay with being, you know, submissive sort of thing. You know, want to have a family and be a young mom in their 20s, you know, sort of stuff.
I see that a lot in my generation. That's why
Yeah.
I definitely agree with like a lot, the majority of like what you guys are saying, especially like with other podcasters too that talk on what you talk about. I agree with it because even with my mom and looking at her generation stuff, she is more like get your degree, buy a house and all that stuff.
Right.
And within mine, it's just like we are looking for the yachts and the guys that own the Ferraris and everything, and we will marry them. So like, I definitely see like, and I definitely agree with you with it all.
Is your mom and dad still married?
They were never together.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it was a one night stand. They were never together, but they're best friends.
Oh, okay. So did you get to spend time with your dad growing up though?
Yeah, I
Okay,
was
cool.
best friends with both of my parents. So yeah.
Best friends or the child and they were the parents?
Best friends actually, because
Really?
they had me at a really they had me at 18.
Okay.
So I became like, they were the parent, but it's just like me and my mom were like sisters, to be honest. And my dad, like, we've always been like super close.
Did you have boundaries set for you that you followed? Like, were they still parenting you?
I don't know, because what's the definition of parenting to you?
Well, I mean, when I hear like best friends with kid and a parent, it kind of raises questions. Like, I'm like, well, what do you mean by best friends? Because a parent's job is to parent the child and set boundaries, and you're not going to be friends because I say and do things with my kid that she doesn't like, and I don't care because I know it's good for her, and I'm not going to engage in an argument or a debate or explain myself beyond just the basics, right? I've got decades on her, and it's not, and she doesn't have the comprehension nor the ability to make good decisions in certain areas of life that I have to set. So you know, when I hear best friends, like I think there's a lot of like hanging out and being buddies and besties sort of things, and it's like that's like I get worried when I hear stuff like that. You know what I mean?
They really, my parents, they made like a really open environment, really, where you could talk and you say whatever you want. But of course, they'll definitely like teach me like ways of life and all. And they are stern with what they say in certain things.
Right. Okay.
Now, Reyin, you've said before, you didn't say that on the sauce. I think I remember hearing this. You said this on the original Saucecast that you were on, but you're not at a point where you want to have kids. Like you're not sure you want to have them, or you just like you don't see yourself having them. I just love to hear more about that.
I got scared when you said kids.
Why'd you get scared?
Wow. Okay.
No.
Let's explore that a little bit. I don't. Yeah.
Oh God, yeah. Kids are not for me right now. I am 23. There was definitely someone on there. She's 26 and she was pregnant, and even
Right.
I was like, "Baby, what?" But
So is it just an age thing, or is it like an ever like you don't think you'll ever want to have kids thing?
No, I definitely think I will have kids, but I personally am not at the financial stance to even have that kid. And until I do marry the rich asshole, then I will be having that kid.
Now, in your line of work, though, I'm sure that I know you said you're talking to somebody, and
I am.
you know, situationship. We've had that word thrown around on this show quite a bit.
Yeah.
I don't know.
What is talking to somebody involved? Is that like you're talking or you're dating
Is it
or
exclusive? Is it not? Is it?
It's definitely
How long have you been talking? Let's just put it that way.
good question. I've been talking to him from May 6th.
Just
it's
talking
recent,
from May.
Of course there's other things, but
Right.
kissing,
Okay.
don't tell. But literally, we've been talking, and personally, I do have trust issues within like people.
Mhm.
So even though he wants to move forward, I am taking it very slow and I don't want to
Why?
move too fast.
Why?
Why? Well, why?
Well, hold on,
Because
back up. Let's say when you say he wants to move forward, like he wants to be exclusive with you, he wants to be your boyfriend, girlfriend, and
he wants to be my
just
boyfriend.
met after a month.
After a month,
So does
that's
that give
me
you
sent
pause
there.
a little bit?
Yeah, it's definitely a pause for me, but he definitely wants to be my boyfriend and everything. And I just need time to just adjust to the single, adjust out of the single lifestyle and stuff, because like I spent a lot, my entire job is being
You're in the
in the
industry,
club, to be
right?
honest.
Yeah. Is he in nightlife or is he outside of it?
He is in nightlife, but not
Yeah.
as much as I am.
Because what I've noticed in knowing a lot of people in nightlife, that it's very much like the restaurant industry. It's very much like you can really only date people that are in that life because you work the same hours. When you're working, they're sleeping, or vice versa. And it's, and you have something to market. Like I've seen your Instagram. Obviously, you're a good-looking woman.
Thank
You're
you.
trying to get followers, and you're trying to get people to buy tables. And I don't know exactly what you do. You're a promoter, right? I mean, you're trying to sell.
Actually, I used to be a promoter. I'm not a promoter.
Okay.
I own half partner in an app called
Okay.
Rate Your Promoters, which is a Yelp to keep women safe in nightlife. So women could, let's say there's a weird promoter, they could type it out and be like, oh, he was weird, blah blah. Put the
Get
name,
them
and it's
out.
like Yelp. So I just help out with group hospitality and towel hospitality within booking clients. That's really it.
So what is the part of like the single lifestyle that you're not ready to give up quite yet?
Because when you're
Like, I'll
really,
say this: Rich and I will agree. Like, a guy asking you to be, first of all, neither one of us think the guy should ever make the ask to be exclusive. I think that's a place of neediness. I don't think the guy should ever be the one to ask. It should always be the woman that says, "What are we? What are we doing?" After 1 month is
that's a scary
also
question.
after 1 month is also another red flag. Like, we think that, I mean, generally guys should be vetting women for at least 6 months to 24 months, depending on how serious they're planning on getting. But
What?
anyway, my question is like, what would you be giving up in the single life that you're not quite ready to give up yet?
So within my lifestyle and everything, I do hang out with a lot of celebrities and influential people. So even like this past weekend, I was with somebody, and not with somebody, but hanging out with somebody that is up there. Whereas I'm on my phone talking to somebody, like talking to my man, and that's just like I need to keep my mindset on one thing with making that network connection, making like that friend that in the industry, and not focusing on the relationship. So that's like one thing where I'm like, oh God. Like I can't do this.
I want to ask you about this rich asshole comment that you made earlier.
Eep. Yes.
Why does he have to be an asshole?
So
I mean, we know women like assholes. There's no question about that, right?
Oh, women love assholes. Yeah, I'm not gonna debate that. But literally, all the people that I've met that are wealthy, not rich, that are wealthy, they all have that iffy side, that asshole side.
Mm-hmm.
So,
are you okay with that?
yeah.
Are you okay with a guy being a bit of an asshole?
Oh no, I fucking love it. Like,
Okay.
I'm
Because
saying
I mean,
that in
it's
the best way
assholes that get
possible.
things done in the world.
Exactly, they do. They demand stuff and they get it immediately.
Mm-hmm.
Like when you ask for it, they just get it, and I love that.
Mm.
Is this
Cyndi,
guy you're
question
talking
for
to?
you.
Would you say he's an asshole?
The guy that I'm talking to, oh,
Nope.
actually, I was gonna
If
say
you
a
had to think
different
about
word.
it, go for it.
No. I was thinking about a different word, but I don't think I should say that on here. So yeah, he is an asshole.
Okay.
Cyndi, how old were you when you had your kids?
I think I had my first one when I was in my 30s, my early 30s.
Early? And then the last one?
They're 3 years apart.
Okay. You've got 2 or 3?
2.
Would you do it again in your 30s if you could go back, or would you do it younger?
I think I actually didn't want to have children, so
Yeah.
that was something that came to me later. My husband and I, my first husband and I, when we met, neither of us wanted children because we were both the youngest, and grandkids, they already had them. So I think it's you know, you can either have them on the front end and then you can be younger when they leave, or you can have them later and get your career or whatever established. You can't have it both ways.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't. It just kind of surprised me when I wanted them, actually. But actually, did want to talk about something that she just said about guys being
Okay.
jerks. So my husband plays these mind games with me sometimes, and I know he's doing it, and he's very well versed at the game. Um, so I don't even remember what it was that was said, but then he didn't kiss me before he left to go to the gym, and I was like, I texted him like, "Were you really that upset about it?" And he's like, "No." He's like, "But you'll thank me later." You know, essentially like, I'm going to play that push pull with you because I know that women need it and they need it to be attracted, you know, that little bit of a, you know, that kind of
Mm-hmm.
a jerky mentality. Um, so it's not that they're always like that on purpose. Sometimes it's just part of the game because honestly, like if women get bored, that's like the worst. He just said that to me the other day, something about trying to keep me guessing, which he always does. Which for
Mm-hmm.
me, when my mind is always going and trying to figure him out, it works. I just don't think that women say they don't want it, but they kind of need it.
Yeah, women don't really know what they want, if we're being honest.
It's true. Most of them. It is true though.
You'll say that you want one thing, and then you'll go do something else.
Oh, I do it every day. I'm so indecisive.
Right.
Yeah.
Moff, you said you had
I
a
did
video
us
clip you
queued
wanted
up.
to.
Before I get to that, I wanted to go back to Reyin just really quickly because
Yeah.
like this is something that is so interesting to me because I'm sure that celebrities and athletes and people in the industry that you're around and you're networking with, I'm sure that they've made passes at you. I'm sure you get hit on a lot. I'm sure that people are, you know, forward towards you. So my thing is, it's like, how are you, for that to happen and you be surrounded by such high level, high sort of value guys all the time that are clearly interested? Do you think that, you know, you'll be able to kind of take that down a notch and I don't want to say settle, but be with a guy that's of lower status? It's just kind of like a regular everyday, maybe he's still a nightlife guy, but he's not, you know, spending $50,000 on bottles, or he's not an athlete or having, you know, millions of followers, being super, super influential. Does that come across your mind at all? Where it's like, oh man, like, you know, Chris Brown is hitting on me right now. How am I going to go be with Joe Schmo? Does that ever cross your mind?
Actually, my last boyfriend who actually asked me to marry him and I was engaged about a year ago. Um, he was the Joe Schmo. He was a doctor, really, in the ICU. And
Not exactly a Joe Schmo for everybody out there listening. I mean, a doctor in the ICU is not exactly slouching around, but I get what you're saying.
you get my
That's
you get my
fine. I
drift.
got it. Yeah.
Yeah. So to me, that was a Joe Schmo. And I will never date someone like that ever again. Because after he showed like certain true colors, I cheated on him immediately. And I went straight to a rapper. like that's up there.
So he was too stable, too boring, too consistent.
Yeah, no, not even. No, he cheated. He cheated on me.
So he cheated on you, then you cheated on him.
Yeah, I was like, bye, and I'm immediately mine. You're not in my mind anymore.
So you don't
So
have
when you say
any
that kind of
patience
guy,
for
who
that?
do you mean? What do you mean? Yeah, a guy that steps out and like exercises options. Is that what you mean?
Yeah, like because
So like a guy that's high level, like a rapper or athlete, whatever. I mean, guys that will do that. So that's like off limits to you because you know what
see,
kind of guys they are.
the thing is, when it was the Joe Schmo and he did that, then I was like, wow, this is like you have no reason to do this at all. And then it being like when or if I do end up with like someone that's an artist or a celebrity, yeah, they're gonna do that, and I'm okay with it. At least I'll have the ring on my finger,
At least they're a
and
celebrity or an
Well,
athlete.
yeah,
why
like
weren't you okay with the doctor doing it though?
Yeah,
the
he's at high
doctor,
level enough.
it wasn't the status that I'm used to at all, and yeah, it just
I
wasn't the
totally
same
hear
life.
this. Yeah,
So
it's like
rapper,
rapper,
okay.
athlete, yeah,
Doctor,
doctor, not okay.
NBA,
no.
NFL, hit me up.
Okay. So then you'll look the other way if it's an NFL player or an NBA player or a rapper, right?
Oh, I am blind.
Isn't that interesting how that works? What do the other
I think it's
ladies
the
think about
first
that?
time we've ever had a woman come on here and be honest about that in the
Oh,
100
I'm so
plus
honest.
episodes we've done. So, yeah, let's go around the other room really quick. Cyndi, Cody, well, Cyndi, chime in first. Like, what do you think about that?
I would not be okay with that. And I'm not actually impressed by titles and money. I've come to a point in my life where if you want to impress me, you better be a good person. So that kind of contradicts with what she's talking about. Um, I just, anybody can have whatever, but to be a good person is something I think that people should be striving for. So,
So
I
you
mean,
can't be a good person and exercise options as a man?
I wouldn't say if you were married and you were cheating that that's being a good person.
Okay. We'll come back to that in a minute.
Mhm.
What about Cody?
I agree with Cyndi. I don't think that that is a quality that I want in a partner. Somebody who is willing to step out and exercise their options. That to me is not attractive. I would rather have somebody who doesn't make as much money, or doesn't have the titles, but that treats me well and that has integrity and is honest to me and to our relationship.
I think what's interesting is like, I don't know. I raised my hand to call BS. I think what's interesting about these three answers is that my guess is, and I would guess that I'm probably about 99% spot on right now, is that Reyin is the only person who's ever even been around extremely high level men. So she's got the experience of that and she's being honest and she knows what that's like. So I think it's easy to say, oh, I wouldn't do that. I would never do that when you've never experienced it. And I think
Yeah, but
it's,
you can't just assume someone's integrity just because they haven't been in that situation.
well, it has nothing to do with integrity. I'm saying I think I think it's easy to say I wouldn't do that, but you've never been in that situation where it's even been an option for you. I think that's what's interesting. Like Reyin actually has, and she's being honest about it because she's been in that situation.
So we can't give answers that are going to satisfy you because we haven't been around X number of
No, it's not
celebrities.
about satisfying me as an answer. I just think I find it interesting that a woman who's actually been in that position is okay with it when the women that haven't aren't. But it's how do you? It's you both sound so sure that you wouldn't. But I just kind of ask, how would you know? That's my thing.
Because I'm old and I've come to a lot of decisions and I've been through some things that have made me really think about things. It's changed my values. My first husband, I had everything I wanted, and I still wasn't happy. And I realized that maybe it wasn't about all the things. So in the past six
Sorry, let me
years, I
just pause
have
there for a sec. You said you had everything you wanted in the first marriage, but you still left it. Like, what was missing?
everything I thought I wanted on paper.
Oh, okay, so what was missing?
Happiness.
So how do you know that what you have now is actually what you want?
Because I'm 100% sure of it. He's the love of my life.
But you
He's
weren't sure. But
amazing.
were you sure of that with your first husband?
No.
Yeah, but you said I had everything I thought I wanted. So at one point you were
that
sure,
I thought that I wanted. I was also 21 at the time.
But you think you have everything you want now, though. So what's the difference?
There's a lot of growth in your brain that happens between 21 and 25 for one. And then life experience too. Having children also opens your eyes to a lot of other things, and what is important, especially when you're trying to teach them how to be good people. I don't think that you can put all women into one category because they haven't been around people that are, making $1 million an hour or whatever. And I work in nonprofit and I see the other side of things, and it's actually a really good reality check. There's more to life than just titles and money.
I know, but I'll try to. I won't belabor the point, but my point is this: it's like if Rich asked me, would I rather drive a Honda or would I rather drive a Lamborghini? And I've never driven a Lamborghini. Like I would never want to drive a Lamborghini. It's like, well, how would you know if you've never done it? It'd be weird for me to say that. If
Valid point.
versus I've driven a Honda and I've driven a Lamborghini, and I would pick Lamborghini every damn time. But anyway, we can move on. Please, Cody, unless you have something.
Just say I agree with you. I agree with that point. That I don't know what I would do, and I think it reminds me of Jordan Peterson. He kind of saying on a similar vein. He talked about how people with Nazi Germany were like, talking about Nazi Germany, were like, I would never be a Nazi. I'd never do that. He's like, well, you don't know that. Like, do you know how many people would be willing or willing to like turn their neighbors in, whatever. Anyway, so yes, I agree with you. I don't know I don't know. However, I think that I would not let money and titles, get in the way of what I think is important, which is, don't get me wrong, money and titles, they're good things, but they're not the end all be all for life and relationships for me.
All right.
Fair enough.
Do you got the video
I got it
queued
queued up? I do.
Good.
Let me share screen real quick. All right. I don't want to share slides. Hold on. I think I know how to do this shit by now. All right. Here we go. Let me know if you guys have audio.
Oh, he's going to kill me.
Oh.
When you're in your late 30s or early 40s and you're dating with the goal of finding a relationship, when does coloring come into the picture? I would say to hold off as long as possible, because
Just so we're clear, coloring in this context means sleeping together.
he won't see you as relationship material if you don't show him you value yourself enough to deserve a relationship. It's like going to a parade and getting candy thrown at your feet versus having to earn money to go to a store and pay for it yourself. Make him buy the candy. What are your thoughts?
You want to be in a relationship, be in a relationship before you let him color. It's the bottom line. You know what he wants. Make sure you stick to what you want.
Because all men want to color, right?
Yeah.
So she needs to know specifically exactly what she wants. And if all she really wants is a relationship, she needs to hold off on that.
Yeah.
So what if he says he wants to color and it's been a while and he hasn't committed then?
Move on. A lot of people out there.
In your 30s and 40s?
Everybody gets to be in their 30s and 40s someday, right?
Well, not everybody, not the people that die in their...
All right. That's
Okay, you guys are cute. I didn't know you married Batman.
What does that mean?
He's got a Batman t-shirt on.
Oh, yeah. My youngest actually legit thinks he's the real Batman.
All right, Moff, you brought up that video. Why'd you bring it up?
Well, first I would like to go around and get everybody's thoughts on that and whether they agree with Cyndi and her husband or if they disagree. Let's go to Reyin first. I don't see Cody on camera. Let's go to Reyin.
Oh, you're muted, right?
Let's get you unmuted. There you
Sorry. Okay, so my thoughts with that is that, to be honest, I wait at least like 3 dates or like 5 dates until I do coloring with anybody. Or if I'm really feeling them that night, yeah. But yeah.
Have you ever gotten to a point where you really like a guy?
Sorry.
Yeah.
Okay.
Go ahead, Rich.
So you break the rule on that night if he's a hot enough dude, right?
Okay, wait. Not just hot enough. I need to see
If you
who
like
they
him.
are first.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If he's hot enough to you, you know, if you dig his vibe and you know everything's in the right place and time, you go for it. All right. Is Cody still there? Or does she take a break from us? She's muted and there's no camera. So okay, so we'll come back to Cody. So Moff, why'd you bring up that video? What's the point of that?
Well, I thought it was really interesting. I mean, especially if we're talking about late 30s, early 40s, I think that that's really bad advice. Women in their late 30s, early 40s need all the help they can get. There are, especially if you're going after the top 5% of men and the men that actually want to be in relationships or men that women are chasing after. And you have to assume a woman in her late 30s or early 40s is generally single because of a result of some bad decisions she's made somewhere down the road. Whether that's marrying the wrong guy first, whether that's getting knocked up and having kids out of wedlock, whatever it is, whether that's just chasing career and putting her relationships and potential marriage on the back burner. There are far more likely going to have baggage or unresolved issues in late 30s and 40s, especially as a single woman. So all of that combined with now you're going to make a guy wait till he commits to you to sleep with him, essentially, I think is I couldn't think of worse advice.
What did you think of that, Cody? Now that you're back.
Oh, we lost the audio for Cody again.
Oh, we don't have any audio anymore?
No. It's the
Okay.
headphones.
We'll let her figure that out. So, like, how many dates is that for you, Cyndi? Like, what's your advice to gals? Like, is it a certain number of dates?
Well,
is
I
it
just
when you ask
know
for the
a lot
commitment?
of women that are in that situation, you know, and then they're like alpha widows, you know. Well, I got someone that a long time ago who would sleep with me, but he won't commit to me. Well, that's because he's just with you to sleep with you. You're not the level of person that he wants to be with. You know, so if you want to vet those people out and you don't want to have to carry that extra baggage because you became an alpha widow, then that's kind of where I'm going with it.
Look at you with the alpha widow, huh? Wow, you've done some
I
research.
told you I watch a lot of this stuff, and my husband and I, you know, talk about it a lot too.
So what's my take on that making him wait, though?
Go ahead, Rich. Yeah.
What's my take on making him wait? I don't know if you got to that part yet. Have you ever seen me talk about that? Because I'm in disagreement with you on that. Can you hear me, Cyndi?
Yeah.
Okay. So what's my take on it? Have you seen the clip on that?
No, I'm not that far down the rabbit hole.
All right, let me take you down the rabbit hole. Here we go. You ready? Strap on your seatbelt, okay, sweetheart? Here we go. Ready to rock and roll? So let me tell you a story about this gal that I went out with once. You know, something I talk about in my book too. So, you know, I met this gal. She wasn't what I expected. She kind of catfished me. She was probably about 30 pounds heavier than She was probably about 30 pounds heavier than what I was expecting when she showed up, and quite a bit taller. But she was cute, so I figured, what the hell, we're there. Let's have the drink. We sit down, and she starts talking about her 8-date rule, because we're, you know, like, how's dating going for you? You know, what's going on, the standard blah, blah, blah sort of stuff. And then she starts to describe the 8-date rule. I'm like, okay, so what's the 8-date rule? And she's like, well, I'm not going to sleep with a guy until 8 dates, because that's my rule. I'm tired of, you know, insert all the reasons why, and I've made this decision now, and it's got to be 8 dates. And I explained to her, well, I don't negotiate when intimacy happens. And I wasn't interested in her anyway, but I just had the conversation. So I said, I don't negotiate when intimacy happens. It's got to be organic. And when you negotiate it, it's not worthwhile. So I don't play games like that. It seems kind of silly. She pauses for a second. She looks at me. She huffs a little bit. And then she gestures towards the bathroom. And she goes, let's go in the bathroom and fuck right now. So women will make rules for men that they see as beta males, and they'll break them for guys that they see as alphas. She went from seeing me as a beta male to an alpha like that, and wanted to go to the bathroom immediately because
but from her perspective, though, like, if I was giving advice to her, you didn't end up with her, did you?
No.
And that's exactly what I'm talking about. Like, these women are looking
but that
for
wasn't
a long-term
why.
relationship.
That wasn't why.
Well, there's an ending to the story which I haven't told you yet. I only saw her that one time, obviously, because I wasn't interested in her. She wasn't my type. I get a random text message, I don't know, 3-4 months later, and I didn't save her my phone again. You know, I wasn't interested. So I get a number. I'm like, you know, she's like, oh, I got to thank you, you know, for that conversation. It was the best advice you ever gave me. I'm in a great relationship now, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, who's this? And she, reminds me about the conversation we had about the 8-date rule and her gesture into the bathroom. She's like, "You're absolutely right. I shouldn't negotiate this stuff and anytime. It had to be organic, and it did work out for me. So thank you for that." So I think that when you set rules, for guys, or you imply that rules should be set as to when intimacy happens, then you start down the rabbit hole of negotiating, because you certainly didn't do that when you were younger. There was guys that you threw yourself at because you had genuine burning desire for him, and he probably had it for you as well. And you get into it not on the 8th date, second date, 5th date, I don't know, but not on a certain rule element, because women do break rules for guys all the time if they have to get into it right then and there, so they don't lose that opportunity. All women have done it, and the women that say they haven't done it, they're lying.
Right, but that when women have sex, that they are emotionally bonding on a level differently than when men do it.
Yes.
So if they
Correct.
already have a ton of baggage, and then they're kind of flinging it all over the place, then they're really going to be destroyed after a while.
And
I mean,
and
they
this
don't
is why
always
women
have to,
shouldn't.
up
And this
to
is why
them.
women shouldn't be sharing their body with a whole bunch of guys. They
Well,
should
I
be
know.
preserving their value.
I mean, because there was this one, I think she was in her 40s, and she was looking for help. She had one of those little tiny dogs, she had her own house, one of those. And I was trying
I
to
think we had
help
her on our show
her.
last month, Moff.
Well, the archetype exists. Okay, we know
Oh
this.
yeah.
But I did try to tell her, because she seemed to think that Prince Charming was gonna fall through her ceiling and land in her lap, even if she didn't do anything. And I kept trying to tell her, no, that's not how it works. And then there was this guy who was obviously someone she aspired to be with, who she'd slept with, who would booty call her once in a while, and she seemed to think that there was some sort of a possibility of a relationship, when there clearly wasn't, because he wasn't in it. But she thought because they slept together that there was. So she always had this like, well, I could do this well because this guy
How old was
wanted
she?
to be with me. Early 40s at the time.
I mean, she's already been with a bunch of guys at that point. So what's the difference?
I don't know. I feel like she could just get more damaged.
Past a certain point, it doesn't matter. Past a certain point, like, women are fucked up if they've had enough guys be with them. I mean, so like one or two more really isn't gonna matter. I mean, it's
You would
different for
actually be
everybody.
surprised. Where do you girls think that damage starts
We
to
got
happen?
the numbers for sure. Yeah,
I got it for you. But where do you girls think that damage happens?
Q.
When?
Wait, can't hear. Q. Number 2.
Number 2, Cyndi?
Well, I'm sorry. What the damage of what happened at what number?
Of being too promiscuous, where it ruins you, because we were talking about it ruining women.
Like the body count? Is that what
Yeah.
you're talking?
Mhm.
I would say like 10, to be honest.
What
Is
about you,
that too
Cyndi?
much?
I don't know. Anything over 6.
Anything over 6? So check it out. So here's the data. So they've studied this.
I'm so bored.
Data from GSS, NORC, General Social Survey. The TLDR. So it's a long study, but I mean, it's summarized down over here. Basically, if get lost, compared to married women with only one partner baseline, the odds of a woman cheating on her husband is 6 times higher with 2 to 4 partners, and almost 10 times higher, 9.47 times higher with 5 partners or more. So the chances of guys getting cheated on by a wife is almost 10 times higher if she's been with 5 dudes. So if she's in her 40s and she's already been around, it's not like it's going to make much of a difference.
Yeah, she's on borrowed time anyway. I think one of the things that I always try to drive home is, yes, all guys want to sleep with women. We know that. That's the main driver. Where women often mess up is there's a really easy way to keep a guy around, and if that's just be pleasant to be around, it's don't be a nag, it's add value to the guy's life. But you've got to go into, if you want a guy to stick around, you've got to do that from the get-go. You've got to do that from the jump, because a guy really only will sort of sleep with a girl and leave if she doesn't have any other redeeming qualities, or if when people get left, it's because it's on them. I'm a firm believer of that. There's too many people out there that are saying, he just didn't see your value. He just didn't see your worth. He's a piece of shit or whatever. He just wanted to pump and dump because he's an asshole. It's no, like if you're not getting the results out of dating relationships that you want, then you're the problem. It's not everybody else, it's you.
Yeah.
So
I mean,
the only thing I was going to say is that guys subconsciously go through this. They don't always know this, they disagree with me on this because they want to play little male feminist and they don't want to actually tell the truth. But a guy doesn't actually know if he likes you or not until after he slept with you. Yeah. Everything a guy thinks he likes about you, oh, she's super funny and she's super smart and like she's really interesting, I love being around her. That is just the male sex drive saying, I want to bang, I want to bang, I want to bang, I want to bang, I want to bang. Yeah. Once that's done, then he gets to say, okay, cool.
Then you have the clarity.
Do I like being around her?
Clarity.
Exactly. PNC, right? That's, I mean, yeah, that's what
true.
it is.
And yeah, and if you give women that advice in their 30s and 40s, like, you know, hold out until he commits to you, the guy's going to be like, what the fuck? Like, you've already given it away for free 20 times before me. Why should I be holding out or waiting? And then they'll just move on. I don't think it's good advice to give to him to say, let it happen organically and naturally, especially if you're older. And you're looking for a guy, you know, suitable for a committed long-term type of relationship, which is what, you know, women at that age range seem to look for. You're starting off on the wrong foot by saying, I'm not going to give you the cookie until you give me the commitment.
Well, the thing is, I have something to say. I feel like a lot of women love, like how you said, like how the woman told you at the 8-date rule.
Yeah.
If you have that rule or anything, a lot of women talk so much that they say all their secrets when they should literally just play dumb like a fox and just be like, like blink their eyes and be like a deer. Like they shouldn't say out all what they want to do, like the 8-date rule and stuff. Like never say that. Just keep it moving.
Yeah. Anyway, I got this video clip here that I got queued up. I want to play for you guys because it's a bunch of men talking about marriage and the value that the men and the women bring to the marriage. So I want to get the ladies' take on this. It's just a quick 2-minute clip. Just give me a second here. Share screen. Boom. Audio tab. You should be able to hear this. If you can't hear it, then just let me know. This is the one that I dropped in general chat this morning, Moff.
Women bring stuff that's not tangible to the relationships, right?
Headaches.
No. I mean, the positive.
Okay.
Right, the positive stuff, right?
Okay.
Right, they bring, you know, peace and whatever they bring to the table. We bring the financial part, right? And then I said this. I said, so we technically rent your attribute. I said a man technically loses in a relationship, and here's why. We bring an attribute. You bring the warmth, the home, the make it house full of home and all this nice, the nurturing, all that, right? You help me build this empire, right? You help me. You make me feel so good. I build this. When we break up and divorce, this is what ends up happening. You take your value with you, right? You take your nurturing and all that. You don't leave that. You take it with you. And then you take half of mine. So half of what you help me create, you take you too. You don't leave half of your nurturing with me. You don't need half of your soul. So basically, I'm renting your half of the table. And I'm sitting there like, because someone said it, a lady said like, I quit my job, I had your kids, right? I gave you kids, and I had to think about what she was saying. I was like, yeah, and then I'm like, wait, hold on. No. The kids you had for him, you took with you to use them to get child support. So they're actually an attribute for you. It's an asset for you.
Assets.
You had a child for me, but that same child you take with you, and I have to rent.
Ooh, which
creates
a liability for you.
Hey, we're 50% parents, but the court said I still have to pay child support, so now I have to use money to see these children again. So technically, it's an asset to you.
It's a liability for us, though.
So
because now we lose. We now lose our assets.
We lose assets.
All right. What do you ladies think of that?
No, my husband always says there's no benefit to marriage for men.
But he got married.
You'd have to talk to him about that then, wouldn't you?
You convinced him.
Second marriage.
Did you guys sign a prenup?
No.
Cody, Reyin?
Wait, can y'all hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Okay. Well, one thing I thought was interesting when he was talking are the use of pronouns. I, yours. In a marriage, I think that it should be we, ours. So I think there's a little bit of, it's interesting how, it's looked at as so divisive, or, and like I said, into the pronouns. I think that's the problem, is that we, something that's supposed to be combined, yours or ours, together we build this life in this home together. We have
Does anybody know who
children
that guy was,
together.
by the way?
No.
Yeah, I know who he was.
Who?
His name is Gilbert Arenas. He's a former NBA. He was a really good NBA player, maybe like
Basketball
I don't
player.
know,
Okay.
15, 20 years ago. Yeah.
Okay. Sorry. I didn't mean to cut you off, Cody. I just
Oh,
want to establish who
no,
the guy
you're
was
good.
talking.
Oh, yeah, no, you're good. But yeah, so I'm just like, well, I mean, maybe it's kind of an attitude, but I get, I do understand that, when divorce happens, that, Rich, I know you've pointed this out before, the woman usually wins as far as, assets, and the guy loses half. But, so I do, so I do understand, like where he's coming from. I do think that there needs to be an attitude change, maybe a different perspective.
How so? Like, what should change?
Well, like I said, I just think that, I mean, it should be looked at as ours. And, when there's divorce, yeah, the woman does leave and the man leaves with half and the woman leaves with half. But that was a life that they were, building together. So,
I mean, I'm pretty sure when she married him, she knew he was a basketball player and made fuck tons of money, and she probably didn't. So,
I mean, sure, there are always outliers, but there are also, other, that's not always the case, but that it's not always, I mean, there's different situations.
well, I'll
But
put
men
it this
still
way.
generally
So,
out earn women, especially
well,
married men.
Well, I'll put it this way, ladies. I mean, I've done private mortgages for quite a few years, and part of the work that you have to do when you evaluate a deal is you take a look at the application and the proof of income. And I would say about 95% of the time, Mr. made a lot more money than Mrs. So it's not an outlier. Like, it's on a strong balance of probabilities. Like, women generally marry up on the socioeconomic scale. They always generally pick guys that are better off than them. So I didn't see.
So are you saying that that lady married that basketball player strictly for his money and then divorced him at an opportune time?
No, that's not what I said. But she chose him because he's a success object, because he's a basketball player. He's tall, he's fit, and he happens to be rich and influential. Men want to be him, women want to be with him. There's all those things in place. So, yeah.
Okay.
Reyin, what'd you think of that?
My thoughts on that, it's pretty simple. I think what he was saying when he's like, oh, I rent those attributes that the woman holds. It's true that the man is the financial object in the relationship, and the woman, she's just the nurturer. She holds life. She does all that. Like, I don't want to reiterate what exactly he said, but literally it's true in all that he's saying. And in divorce, the woman will take her half and she'll take some of his. So, because I see my mom do it. So my mom married rich, and she had a plan to divorce him when I was 18. She did that plan, and we took all, like, hers half and a lot of, like, more of his, a lot of his. So everything that he said was true.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't find anything there to argue with. I just wanted to hear what the ladies, thought of it, because it's a slightly different perspective on an angle that I've hit before.
So would you recommend men and women getting a prenup?
It's a reasonable thing to do if you're coming to the table with a lot more than what she's coming to the table with, especially if you have kids from a prior marriage and you want to make sure that your kids get your shit, not her kids getting your shit. So there's that. The notion of getting one if you are both at the same level is kind of pointless, because the whole point of the prenup is to protect your assets. And if you're at the same level, there's really no need for it. The other thing too is a prenup loses value over time. So if, you get the NBA player and she's a hairdresser or something, let's say, they get married, they're together for 10, 15 years. She has 3 or 4 of his kids, stays at home, raises them. Whatever that prenup says, she's just going to go to a judge and say, I gave up my career to be a stay-at-home mom and raise the kids, so I should be entitled to, be able to take care of the kids and maintenance, sort of thing. The argument a lot of guys make is like, well, I'm maintaining, she was down here, she was down here, and I brought her up here, and now we break, but I have to keep her up here, even though I don't even get to be with her anymore, and I don't get the nurturing and the benefits and the intimacy. And by the way, women get the kids 80% of the time. So the arguments that he's making are valid. I like the way that he positioned it as far as like, you're almost renting them because she gets to keep half your shit, but you're only renting her nurturing for that period of time. I thought that was
That
an
was a
interesting way of
crazy
breaking
thing
it
to
down.
say. I like when he said that, I was really taken back by that. I'm like, wow,
But he's not wrong though, right?
he's not wrong. It's just really different.
See, like that's the thing that women don't seem to understand is that you girls have a very strong advantage when it comes to entering into relationships. So, I mean, if you find a guy that's on the top shelf and he's willing to commit to you and be monogamous, and sort of thing, it's like you have to like know when to stop if he draws a line in the sand. You know what I mean? Like if he says, "Look, we're going to do this, but I'm not going to do this, that, or the other thing," sort of thing, where I'm not going to give you this, that, or the other thing. Like you have to know where to stop, right? Because you still have a very strong deal. Like you're in a very good bargaining position.
Oh yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
Question for the ladies. I jotted down here earlier too. What do you wish that men understood about women that they don't?
What do I wish men understood about women? I think men are completely fine, to be honest. I think you guys are very simple, and you just have to know how to play the game.
What do we want? What do men want?
You guys want sex, food, and good vibes.
Okay. And good vibes.
Good vibes.
That's a good vibe.
Very Gen Z answer.
Yeah.
Yep, exactly.
Okay. Good woo-woo energy then. So we'll go with that. Same question to Cody then. What do you wish men understood about women that they don't?
We love, well, I mean, not all women. I love somebody who wants to be a provider and a protector. I don't want, I don't want to be the one fighting off the zombies in the world. Can I tell y'all a story?
Yeah.
So, okay. So I am from the South, and so I shoot guns. And anyway, his name is Guy, and he would tell people we would be like together, and he would tell people he's like, well, if the end of the world happens, she's gonna be the one killing the zombies because I'm definitely not doing it. And I'm like, wait a second, like, okay, that's the most unattractive thing ever.
Yeah, I was
I
going to say
like,
that must have turned you right off.
oh, it did. I was like, yeah, no, this is not going anywhere. Like, what did you think when you said that? Oh, yeah, and he would also say things like, don't ever think I'm going to defend your honor, because I won't. And I'm like, wait a second. Like, I want a guy, and I don't mean like a guy who's going to start altercations, but I do want a guy who's willing to stand up for me and to protect me, and to fight for me when need be. Like that.
Are
is
you
very
okay
attractive.
with reloading the clips and passing them to him?
Yes, I will do that. Absolutely.
Cyndi, same question. So what do you wish men understood about women that they don't?
I'm not really sure that men are the issue. Men, like, I do agree, men are very simple. They haven't really changed much in what they want or what attracts them to women. It's women that have changed. I know my husband says the only thing he wants is peace. I try not to bring really any drama there. We're kind of past that in our lives. But I think that actually women need to kind of ease more back into their feminine if they want to get these guys that are the strong providers and protectors. I think that's, my husband's the one that's waiting for the zombie apocalypse and he's ready for it. He's like, bring it on. And that's great. I love that about him. I mean, I'd be standing right behind him. But I think it really isn't. That's not the issue. That's not the issue. It's not what men need to know about women. It's not the issue.
Okay. What do you think men want from a relationship? Just
They
peace?
want peace.
Peace?
At some point, yeah. I mean, they
To be
want all
left
the
alone?
peripherals. No, not to be left alone, but they want someone that brings that calm energy. They don't want someone that's always nagging or, freaking out or whatever. So my husband is in law enforcement. When he's here at my house, he's not working. Those are his off days. And I know that he works very hard. I try to respect that. So I cook his breakfast before I go to work. I serve it to him. I keep the house clean. I do all the laundry. And I also work full time and I volunteer and I manage the kids or whatever. But it's that, like, it's not like 1920s or whatever, but it's kind of going back to that. I want to do this for you because you bring this to the family kind of a thing.
Peace. So we got peace, food, sex, and good vibes. Anything that men want that we miss there, Cody?
I think y'all. Oh, according to me, I think y'all covered them. Yeah, it doesn't seem like there's too much more.
Okay. Well,
I don't know. What do you think, Rich?
well, I can tell you one of the big things for
What do they
dudes
like?
is they do not want disrespect. If there's
Oh,
one
no.
thing that's going to count down to the end of the relationship, is disrespecting him. Nothing infuriates a man more than him having a boundary and her pushing into it repeatedly, especially in a disrespectful way. The other couple of things that guys want is, when you were talking about peace, I was thinking that's kind of like almost encompassing of the notion of being useful, somewhat. But a guy also wants a woman to be a complement to his life. He doesn't want difficulties. He doesn't want to argue over important items that matter to him, that are a line in the sand. Yeah, he definitely wants her to be useful. And then the last thing, which Reyin sort of mentioned, was sex. But it's not just sex, because you've had sex before.
Intimacy.
No, men want the dirtiest, nastiest, best sex that you've never given to anybody else, to only him. He wants to know. He wants to know that he's the best that you've ever had. That's it.
That's a Drake lyric.
Men are simple.
Yeah, it's old school. I have a question for Cyndi. You mentioned this before, but I want to see how this, manifests itself in your day to day. You're obviously involved in a lot of things. I would say that you have very, I don't want to say, I'm not going to say masculine energy, but you are a go-getter. Like, you're out there, you're getting shit done. And you mentioned that you have struggles with kind of falling back into that being led role and sort of that feminine energy. Like, how does that manifest itself on day to day? And I look through some of your content, and I'm sure some of this is for like effect and a little bit of joking around, but it sounds like there's some of these posts that you've made where you've even gone so far as to kind of like maybe browbeating your husband a little bit, or being a little bit, too much, or a little naggy. I mean, maybe that's for effect, or maybe that's your everyday, but how does that kind of manifest itself in your day to day? How do you sort of monitor that and make sure that you're, still opening yourself to being led and trying to be feminine as much as possible?
I have to check myself sometimes. Like, he doesn't react to things. So if I'm, I mean, women are moody, whatever, for whatever reason. And sometimes I will, react in a way that probably isn't something that he deserved. And then when he doesn't react, and then I think about it later, I'm like, oh, I'm crappy. I'm a crappy wife. So then that's when I go back and I always apologize. And he's like, whatever. He's very chill about everything.
Does he ever check you first, or is it almost always like you checking yourself?
It's rare. I don't like to let it get to that point. It does happen sometimes, but it is pretty rare. I mean, he's like the most even-keeled person on the planet. Um, and yes, the content is, it's content, it's marketing. But in my relationship, what I find very interesting in writing self-help is that when I read it back, or when I have to do an audiobook or whatever, I find that I'm like, oh my gosh, I need to start taking more of my own advice. Like, when I write it, it makes sense. But then, like, in the day to day, sometimes you get bogged down or stressed out or whatever it is. And then you let it affect you when it's really not that person's fault, right? And then you take it out on that person, kind of like kids do with their parents and whatever. And then it really helps me to understand how good that I have it in my relationship. It always brings me back to, oh my gosh, thank goodness you're you and that you are with me and I appreciate you. I try to, always let him know how much I appreciate him. And then I do things, like, so we don't live together full time because of his job. So I make sure to like make extra large dinners and then I send them home in like individual serving sizes. So when he's at his house, I can still take care of him.
Wait, you
So
guys
I
are married,
do.
but you live in separate houses?
Yes, because we met later in life and we both had separate lives. So your example about not pushing hard boundaries, like I'm usually the one like this makes sense. I want to do it my way.
Right.
So he, when we met, I'm like, well, why don't you work up here? Why don't you just transfer? And he's like, I don't want to do that. Well, I'm like, well, why? And I wasn't happy with the answers. So I set up a meeting with the hiring lieutenant and I was like, let's just have this conversation. If you say no after this meeting and I have all the facts, I will drop it. And he had the meeting. He said it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make financial sense, especially at the end of his career. He's about to retire. And I haven't brought it up.
How far away do you guys like drive?
2 hours.
That's interesting. So
Yeah.
So he drew a line in the sand and said, it doesn't make sense. We're not going to do it. And you went over his line and set up an appointment with his boss and pushed it?
I just wanted the answers. I wasn't satisfied with the answers of why.
Because you didn't trust him, or?
No, they didn't make sense to me. I wanted to be in the conversation.
See, to me, that would be extremely disrespectful. Like if I draw a line and say, no, it just doesn't make sense and here's why, and then you go and make an appointment with my boss to dig a little deeper to make sure that you can verify that this is true, I'd just be like, I'm fucking out of here.
But like that's like what I'm saying. That's my personality is very like I am just like it needs to make sense. And but then it is like he like I said, he's very calm and
he's very patient. Let's say that.
My God.
Yeah, he's got a lot more patience than most guys would for something like that.
Yeah, he's got endless amounts of patience for me, which is great. But and it's not,
if he's in law enforcement, he's dealing with crackhead as an idiot all day long. So he's probably thinking that this was pleasant.
Well, he dated for like the entire time I was married in my first marriage. So he was, because he's like 10 years older than I am. So he's seen a lot and dated a lot, and he does deal with crazy every day at work. So he doesn't want to deal with any of that in his personal life. And the distance isn't my favorite.
Let me ask you a question. Do you think that the distance plays a role in the success of your marriage? Do you think it helps?
Oh yeah,
or
totally
hurts it?
does. Yeah. So at the beginning, I was like, I hated it because I had come out of my marriage not knowing how to do anything like mow the yard or fill up my own gas tank. And so it was very hard for me to transition into a relationship where I was alone and I had to figure out all those things and become independent, which is great and not great on a different level. But yeah, I understand that whole absence makes the heart grow fonder thing. And, it makes sense. It's not my favorite, but it definitely makes sense. And I know that it's going to be quite an adjustment when he retires. But I'll still be working and he won't be. But I think that we just need to find that same distance. You can have too much of somebody.
Got it. Okay. We got a few minutes left. Did you ladies have any questions for us or anything you want to clarify?
No. You guys are great.
It's got to be something.
I do have a question.
We're not always great. Yeah, go ahead.
I have a question. Okay, so I want to talk about like being a provider. So do you think it's the man's role to be the breadwinner and take care of the woman financially, or should the woman contribute equally in the relationship?
So if I'm going to be the breadwinner and I'm going to contribute financially, then I need authority over that relationship. Because if you have full responsibility to the household, to the relationship, then you have to have the authority that comes with it. Otherwise, it's slavery.
Okay, right.
Now,
and so
most people don't get into that though. Like most people get into egalitarian, equal 50-50. You know, they'll put the same, you know, down payment down on the house. They'll split the mortgage payments, or one person take care of one thing and somebody, you know, something else. But I was of the mindset when I was younger, like, let's be more equal and egalitarian and the Twin Towers sort of thing, like, you know, do things together. But at this stage of my life, because I'm a lot more successful, I don't think that I would, like, I wouldn't be interested in a woman's money. Like, her having the same amount of money as me is not interesting to me whatsoever. I've got enough. Like, I don't need her to contribute or split bills or anything like that. But if I'm going to be in a long-term relationship in a committed fashion, I need the authority over it.
And when you say authority, what?
Sorry?
What do you mean by authority?
Well, let's put it this way. So if, you know, so if we got into a dating type of environment and then you came to me and said, hey, you know, where do we stand? Where's this going? I dig your vibe. You know, what are we, sort of thing. Then at that point, then I'd be like, okay, so let's take a look at her, and is she a good candidate for me to give her my commitment? What does her lifestyle look like? Who are her friends? And if there's changes that need to be made, then that's when I would exercise some authority. Like, for example, so Reyin's back on. She's got her Instagram there. It's public. She's got a lot of skin that shows on there. You know, a conversation that I would have with her would be like, look, dig your vibe too, but I'm not going to take a gal seriously that's constantly marketing herself and showing her skin to other dudes all the time. That's for me and only me. So that's going to have to stop. And also, you're going to have to get out of the line of work that you're in, because I'm not going to have my gal out at night, you know, nightclubs, partying and drinking and hanging out with all these people, because it's like having a nice car and parking in a shitty neighborhood. I want my nice car locked up in my garage. And that's not like I control it and I want to run it, but if I'm going to care about you, then that's the way things have to be. And that's just being prudent and governing and leading as a man, as we should.
I like that. I like that answer. I think that I respect that for sure. I like that.
Moff, you want to chime in?
Yeah, I'll just say female-led relationships almost never work. I mean, it's almost to a certainty that it's not going to work.
Yeah.
We know how women are hypergamous. They want a guy that's better than them. It's like, I'm not going to say never, because there's always going to be somebody in the comments like, oh, my wife makes more than me. We've been together 25 years, whatever. It's the same thing as, like, I look at it as a woman who's 6 foot dating a guy who's 5'8", right? I'm not saying it can't ever work, but I'm saying the vast majority of relationships like that won't work out. So me personally, as a man who wants authority in his relationship and somebody who wants to call the shots and who works every day to do that, yeah, for me personally, wouldn't work. And I think most guys out there that have their stuff together, who want to call the shots in the relationship, they're not looking for women to contribute. They're not interested in, like I said, like Rich said, money, their pot of gold, whatever. They want those 3 things. They want dirty, filthy monkey sex. They want respect, and they want, you know, compliment to their life, which very rarely, if ever, includes money. It's more about other things, like making his life easier so he can go have more time, so he can make more money, right? So, but no, it's the egalitarian aspect, the 50-50 stuff. It almost guaranteed is not going to work.
So would I be out to lunch by wanting a man? Like, I'd be like, I'll make you dinner, I'll do your laundry, the house will always be clean, like whatever you want, as long as you take care of me financially. Am I out to lunch for wanting that?
No, it's extremely normal. Like,
Okay.
I hope we clip this right here, because this is where we are, where something that's worked for millennia, thousands of years, where the guy went home, made the bacon, women, you know, brought it home to the woman to cook it up. That's how successful relationships have been since the beginning of time. It's only now that feminism and all these other evil things at play are trying to brainwash people into thinking that that's a bad thing, or you're somehow a slave if all you do is cook and clean and a guy has to provide for you. So it's just so interesting that that's the question that was asked, because 20 years ago, 30 years ago, 40 years ago, nobody would have batted an eye at things like that. And now it's almost like, am I out of my depth by asking for a guy who can provide as long as I can take care of the household? That's where we are.
I will say this though. Just to sort of add to it. There's also problems that a man must consider when it comes to family law. because as soon as you start living in a way that looks like marriage, like let's say you just live together, you're not even married. At some point, common law kicks in. Where I live, it's 2 years, and actually, common law and family law can get involved in your life even if you don't live together. There's a rather interesting case that happened here several years ago. There was this guy, I can't recall his name for the life of me right now, but it was he's on the list of billionaires in Canada. Like his family is very, very wealthy, and his girl did kind of what you do, Cody. You know, she was in a Pilates. She had kids from a prior marriage. She was an instructor. They never lived together, but they would have dinner multiple times a week at his house. Her kids would come over. He would fly her down to Miami or up to Muskoka, which is cottage country up here. And they would spend a lot of time together. And because they lived in a way that she convinced the courts was marriage, even though they didn't live together, she's getting about $60,000 a month from him for like the next 20 years. So there's some legit things that guys need to contemplate too. Like you can have that relationship and that dynamic, but if family law is going to interfere in it in such a way that might complicate your life unnecessarily, he might opt out of that and say, look, I'll be in a relationship with you. I just can't live with you because the state is going to fuck things up. You can move to another state that's more friendly. That's another way to solve the problem, you know, where family law doesn't get involved and govern things after that. But there's a lot of things that guys have to contemplate that women just either don't know about, or a lot of the times they don't understand. They're like, oh, that's not very romantic, or what are we going to do? We're just going to keep doing like this forever sort of thing. It's like, no, you can move. You know, there's other things that you can do, but you can love a woman and not live with her.
Yeah, that makes sense. I have another like question about that though. Okay, so like I was dating this guy, and I love to be like, I'm like, I'll do anything. Like I said, I'll cook you dinner. I'll make sure the house is clean. I love doing those things. I was like, but I just want to be like taken care of. Like I just want you to like be the provider. And he like hated that so much. He's like, well, you're just gonna go ride your bike. Okay, I am a little obsessed with mountain biking. He's like, you're just gonna go ride your bike all day while I'm at work. And how do you think that's fair? And I was like, well, don't you want me to look good? I mean, I don't know. But so where does that, like, if the woman does
How old
everything
was he?
for you? 37, 38.
And you were 37 at the time too, or younger?
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean,
I was like a year older.
I would expect you to be at the house taking care of my kids and nurturing them, you know, sort of thing, and educating them, like homeschooling, like that would be the ideal sort of thing. But if I was at this age and using you as an example as a 41-year-old, I don't know that I would be like your sugar daddy, because that's what it sounds like. It's like, let me go off riding my mountain bike and fuck around and do Pilates while you pay for everything, because I can have a gal come over and pay her $160 a week, and she can clean my house and cook for me too, right?
Okay, so I should change my perspective.
I mean,
I need to
add more value to his life than just cooking and cleaning.
Okay. How can I add more value to his life? Or
I don't know. Ask him. What can I do to be useful? Like what's going on in your world? Like you're an entrepreneur, you're a doctor, you're a dentist. Like what can I do to be useful in your life to help you, put a dent in the universe and chase excellence, so I can support that mission.
Okay.
Because if it's like, I want to go mountain biking for 6 hours a day, I mean, you don't need 6 hours of mountain biking to look good.
Okay, yeah, that's true. 4 though. Okay, let's see. Yeah, okay. I think it will also too is it was like a jealousy thing too. It was like, well, why should I have to work when you're out playing or whatever? And I don't know. I'm like, and I'm completely okay with being like, I'm in the wrong. So am I in the wrong? So say I do go up and I'm like, hey, what can I do to add more value to your life? And and he's like, okay, XXX. And then I do those things. Am I still in the wrong by being like, okay, I'll do all those things, but I also want to go ride my bike.
Yeah, within reason. I mean,
Okay.
I want to ride my bike too. Like I like cycling.
Okay. Oh, cool.
Why do I have to work my ass off and you get to go cycle all day?
Yeah, that was his point.
It's a fair point.
Okay. Okay, that was fair. I got defensive, and I'd be like, "Oh, you're just jealous," So I guess I need an attitude shift on that.
Yeah, there's a slight attitude adjustment. If you're making contributions to his life beyond just taking care of basics around the house, like I said, you can hire a nanny that doesn't, or like anybody that come to your house and cook and clean for not a ton of money, and you don't like. She's never going to be going to family courts being like, "Oh, he owes me money because I was taking care of his house." Like, fuck that. I was, we've got receipts for all the payments that I was paying you. We have the ad here, that shows that you advertise yourself as a cleaning service or a cooking service. So they can skip that risk. Like I have a friend of mine that I was talking to last weekend. He lives down in Colombia, and for $400 a month, he has a gal that comes over to his house, stretches him in the morning properly, does his laundry, cleans, goes out at lunch and picks up his double espresso, brings it over hot and fresh, brings him his lunch, organizes his laundry in his closet by color for like $400.
Great deal.
Right. So it's like, why would I want to have a woman come into my house and do that when she can take half my shit?
Right. Okay, that makes sense.
Right.
Okay.
So
I need an attitude adjustment and more value to a man's
it's just
life.
basic economics. Like a smart man is going to look at the economics of the deal. And if it doesn't look like a good deal, he's not going to take it. So you have to offer him a good deal.
Okay.
That's where I think that women go wrong a lot of times. Is they kind of have a little bit of entitlement and they need a bit of an adjustment to what their value is. And it's like, there's beauty, there's femininity, there's usefulness that you can bring to our lives, but don't take advantage of us because we know when we're being fucked over.
Okay. That's great advice. Thank you.
All right. I think we should wrap it up on that note, Moff, because we're a little bit over. Do you want to do the unsolicited advice and we'll call it a night?
I actually don't have any for the first time. I think you gave plenty of great advice there to Cody and appreciate the questions. Yeah. I think all three of our ladies have their heads squarely on their shoulders and they're kind of knowing what they want at this point. My only advice is stay out of the comment section. It doesn't do good. It doesn't do you any good. Just stay away from the comment section. Just move on.
Half the guys are going to fluff you up and tell you you're gorgeous, and the other half are going to tell you that you're trash. So don't even bother with the comments. I do have some unsolicited advice for Reyin because I think Cyndi and Cody are pretty squared away. But I would get the fuck out of the line of work that you're in. It's not conducive to a long-term relationship. It's not conducive to having kids. There's no guy that's going to be like, oh, I wish my gal worked, more years in the club industry, promoting bottles and getting drunk and degeneracy and all that sort of stuff. If you want to have would you call him a rich asshole in your life? And this is as a husband?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's no rich assholes out there that want a club promoter gal that's running around in the nights.
Well, I'm the marketing director for a club. So.
I know, but are you in there, in the evening? Are you doing the drinking? Are you doing the partying?
I actually don't drink.
Okay, but are you doing the partying? You're out with all these people?
Yeah, I'm vlogging. Yeah.
All right. Called it. All right. That's it, ladies. Thanks for all coming in. It was a good show. Appreciate all the contributions.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. Great.